Welcome back to the mental space. And again, welcome back for the third part in our series here at the Lighthouse Retreat in Ras Al Khaimah. Now, why are we here? Well, if you've missed the last two podcasts, we have got an exciting partnership, and I'm here today again with Simon Dunn, founder of the Lighthouse Retreat. We are going to be running together a men's retreat, which is going to focus on the secrets of longevity, performance, and dealing with stress and leaning into our mental health. Now, in previous podcast episodes, and I recommend that you check them out, we've looked at the benefits of saunas, fire and ice baths, yoga, paddleboarding. We're going to be doing workshops on fasting and what our diets bring to us. In this conversation, we're just going to get a little bit deeper about men's mental health because, as we've mentioned previously, the statistics around men's mental health are shocking. Suicide rates around the world amongst men, both at a young age and in their 40s and 50s, are alarming. So it's time for us. Burnout rates are at an all-time high. So it's time for us to talk more about our mental health. And Simon and I are going to get into this. And Simon, once again, welcome for joining us on the mental
Thank you
space.
for having me.
Tell us about one of the, I'm really looking forward to it. But one of the benefits of being out here is that you've got access to the desert. Mm-hmm. Talk us through one of the experiences that we've got lined up for guys who are going to join us here on the 3-day retreat.
Sure. So we have a session where we'll be heading off into the desert to do a walk in the valleys of the desert and the dunes, barefoot. So we'll be grounding. Barefoot, grounding ourselves in the desert. And then we are going to have, under the starlight, a fireside chat. And this is going to be an opportunity for yourself and I to share some of our history and stories of our own wellness journeys. But also it's an opportunity for guys to have the opportunity to share, if they feel like sharing, to have the opportunity just to listen sometimes. And also have the opportunity to get some elements off their chest, tell people, individuals who are in a similar space with no judgment, open hearts, just to understand someone's story, their background, and give people the opportunity to share that.
One of the things I've found since I've sort of started my journey, and we'll get into my whys about why I started on this journey, but the amount of times I sit down with guys and it very quickly gets to mental health. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a private pandemic generally, that we just don't talk about these things. I mean, the statistics here in the UAE tell us that 1 in 3 of all people, men and women, are struggling from mental health. Yep. You know, and I think probably the reality is it's probably 1 in 1 or very close to that, because if you're getting from 0 to 99 and you're not struggling, you probably hit the lottery. And one of the things with mental that we've tried to tackle is this concept of you're not alone. Because particularly guys, we tend to try to be an island. You know, again, it's all those responsibilities.
Very much so.
So what I'm really excited about is to kind of sit down with you and have this conversation and just like kind of get into what men's mental health, because the responsibilities on us these days are huge, and we don't talk about it. What I'm really interested about this is, as well as the fact that, I mean, we use the terms safe space or psychologically safe space, which is important. But this is just a kind of like, we're going to have a bunch of guys who get together. Now, they might go on to become really good friends. But at the same time, we're all going to be there for the same reason. And there's no judgment.
Absolutely.
And you might never see these guys again anyway. So it's your opportunity to get some stuff off your chest that you might not even feel you can say to your best mate.
Absolutely. I think from my own personal journey, I had something that was very personal and strong with my journey. So part of my journey into my wellness and continuous onward journey is obviously I had my blood pressure issues and some health issues and weight. But I lost my father a while ago. And
sorry.
It's all right. This happens. And my father passed away. He had some issues with. He had a heart attack, but he had some issues with alcohol. And he passed away, and being a guy, I never really talked about it. I never really grieved properly. I never really went through that space of the whole cycle of, remorse and dealing with everything.
Yeah.
And every now and again, at a party or a brunch or a few too many drinks, I would end up in the corner of a room crying, and no one would really knew what was going on, but I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to deal with my father's passing, and like many guys, I had a complicated relationship with my father. I loved him very much, but it was a relationship that, like anything, it was a difficult thing to describe. And I actually found something really cathartic and really profound on my first wellness retreats, was actually having just the opportunity to share and talk about things that I never talked about before. And being a guy, it was like, I'd never done any of this sort of stuff. And it was just having the opportunity to walk someone, or having the opportunity to talk about these things. And I had did some NLP work with somebody about my father, which was great. And it was, my perception of the whole thing is very different now, because at times previously I wouldn't be able to mention my father because I'd start blubbing, or I'd get angry, or the usual thing, being a guy. So that was part of my own journey of understanding elements within my own past and ego and control and grief and all these sort of things. Creating a safe space and a safe element of allowing people to, or myself anyway, to share and then try and overcome, and that allowed me to sort of work with my own grief and by extension my own mental health, really, because we just bottle it up, as always.
Absolutely,
and we find our own coping mechanisms, but coping mechanisms that may or may not be
good for
constructive or destructive, as the case may be. So, and as well, I think it's important to note that this opportunity is not a case of, well, you must share or you have to do something. It's just, here's an opportunity. If you want to share, you want to talk about something, or if you just want to listen and take in the space, that's cool also. It's not, there's no preconception of you must do this or you have to. It's just a great opportunity to experience something.
It's interesting as well, because the more we as guys sit down with each other, like we sat down, and it's amazing actually how quickly we realised we got very similar stories about our fathers as well. Again, I lost my father to mental health 3.5 years ago, very successful CEO. Some people have heard me tell the story before. And it was then when I recognised that I'd never had a conversation with my father about mental health, or indeed anybody, and that it was actually time. And I remember looking down at my dad in his open casket and saying to myself, it's time to have more conversations like this. And I think that was the beginning of me taking some level of control. And that's not to say that, I know I'm at the beginning of a journey rather than the end of the journey. But talk to us a little bit more about, taking control, because one of these things, it's a really interesting thing, because I think the pandemic's reset something in a lot of us. I know it did for me, whether it was my dad's passing, but, I lent into all of this and launched the mental space, launched my own business. The Great Resignation will show us that there's lots of people out there that are launching their own businesses or looking for a change in their life. One of the workshops you've got planned for us is aimed at helping us shape that a little bit more. I just want you to tell us a little bit more about that exercise.
So we'll be doing a workshop exercise called Wheel of Life. It gives us an opportunity for a personal self-assessment. So we look at elements within our lives, anything from finances to work to relationships, and give ourselves a rating and to see, are we balanced in everything that we're doing? And it also gives you the opportunity to say, well, something that is really important to me, I'm actually not doing that well on. So then from there you can say, well, these 3 things I want to improve. And then it gives you an opportunity to say, well, okay, what can I do to improve those and give more energy to them? And sort of like a self-commitment to say, well, I would like to do 1, 2, 3 things in this amount of time to positively affect a more balanced approach to how I feel and what's important to me.
So that's the wheel of life, and we're gonna do, and I think this is an exercise that's really going to be useful, particularly for anyone who's in middle management, again, who's dealing with all those different pressures, who's maybe felt the pandemic, who's maybe felt that they're not living their values, or are not perhaps living completely to their purpose, or just want to be that little bit better, and a bit more focused on, okay, so I've got to here, because this is sometimes we get to our 40s, we still got 25 years ahead of work for us. So where do we go with that? What are our priorities then? Because kind of when we hit our 20s, we haven't got a plan. Or most of us haven't got a plan. We're just rolling with it.
Correct.
Another thing, and what I love about what we're going to be doing over the next 3 days is, over the 3 days of our retreat, is just kind of focusing on new things. So we're going to do some workshops on Reiki and sound healing, which are perhaps some of the practices that I'm definitely less familiar with. And I would imagine there's a few men out there that are also less familiar. So very quickly, because time is against us, talk to us about Reiki.
Okay.
What Reiki actually is, what it's given you, and why men should be embracing this in their lives.
Sure. So Reiki is a form of what you would call energy healing, which has an element of, misunderstood elements to it. A Reiki practitioner, for example, doesn't create energy, doesn't pass, they are a conduit. The idea is that a Reiki master calls on and asks for energy within the universe for your own betterment, and asks for that energy to go where it's needed and for your best benefit. It's not a case of, well, I have a broken arm, please mend my arm. Or that type of thing. It's a case of, the energy, the universe is full of energy. And the idea is that the Reiki practitioner helps to try and channel energy within the universe and from your guides and relatives that are out there in the ether. And it can sound a bit woo-woo. However, it can. But it's a case of, the easiest way I can explain it from a experiential point of view is that our first retreats we went to, my wife and I were working in the nuclear industry. And my wife and I both did physics at university. And in our first retreat, she was like, what's this energy rubbish? Where does it come from? What does it do? What's the answer? You must explain it to me.
Yeah.
And she experienced it. Something happened and it actually changed her life. And she's actually now a Reiki Grandmaster.
Right.
She has trained
So the nuclear scientist.
Well, she's a nuclear engineer,
a nuclear
psychologist, so to speak.
Right.
So she's now a Reiki Grandmaster, and Reiki is part of her DNA now.
Okay.
It changed her life. It changed her behaviors. She's trained and qualified at least half a dozen Reiki masters.
I'm going to be fascinated to learn a little bit more about it. I mean, look, I think it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be an interesting experience for guys to come in and just like, all right, keep an open mind.
Exactly.
The more I've started looking at my mental health, particularly because I hit 50, it's almost like, again, find out what tools work for you. These things aren't going to hurt.
Yes.
So keep your mind open to it. But even things like, I think a lot of us begin to, accept things like manifestation.
Yes.
In like, if I am intentional and I keep saying, I want to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, then eventually you do that. I'm not saying, so I'm more open to manifestation. So I think that's almost like opening a door. So, okay, let's have a look and see what else there is. Doesn't mean we have to use a tool, but that's going to be one feature of it. The other thing, sound healing, which I think there's science to sound healing as much as there is that meditative, spiritual side of what sound healing is. So talk us through a little bit of that.
So sound healing has got a number of different forms, but in essence, what you're trying to do is create a sound bath or an environment of sound waves that helps rejuvenate and heal the body in a way that it gives your body an opportunity to relax, get into a meditative state, and see where that journey takes you. So the sound healing that we will be doing at the retreat will be using Himalayan Nepalese bowls. They're metal bowls that have specific frequencies and sounds that correlate to different chakras and chakra system within the body. The idea is that we use frequencies, vibrations, and sounds from these bowls to create an environment where you receive these sounds and the body gets to hardwire itself into a brainwave state. So the body goes into similar brainwave states as in deep sleep. So you're talking about things like alpha, beta, theta brainwave states that your body gets into like these deep healing states of meditation. So much so individuals quite often have experienced when you go into a sound healing session, you go into what would be a deep sleep or deep meditative sleep, and they're like, wow, I just feel like I've been asleep for like 4 or 5 hours.
To be honest with you, as the father of a 7-year-old who keeps waking me up in the middle of the night shouting "Daddy" because she's either had a nightmare or she wants us to come and sleep with us. 4 hours of uninterrupted sleep sounds absolute heaven to me.
Exactly. And, sound healing and Reiki, the idea of these sessions is to create an experience to try and receive.
Yeah.
It's not a case of being prescriptive. These are options of things to experience and to find what really resonates with you. So some would say sound healing is really, really strong for them. Others would say Reiki is really strong for them. Others would say, I want to do elements of something called yoga nidra, which is like a deep meditative sleep type yoga.
Yes.
Create these opportunities to receive and feel what really works for you, and understand that there are things that you can do to go and receive, be proactive in terms of your wellness and healing, and say, well, I really, really enjoy sound healing. Yeah. So I'm going to do that and join sessions of that more often because it really works for me. So that's why we do those.
I mean, what a varied program that we've put together for those 3 days. I mean, I absolutely love it. So if we kind of recap what you can be looking forward to here at the Lighthouse Retreat, we're going to be going out into the desert, fireside chat underneath the stars. We've got fire and ice, saunas, ice baths. We've got paddleboarding out on this lagoon. We're going to be looking at the benefits of yoga. We're going to be having workshops which really formulate how us as guys can take a little bit more control about the path of our lives moving forward. We're going to be exploring things like sound healing, Reiki. I'm really super interested to find out what that's going to be. And then the whole idea of this, isn't it, Simon, is to, again, just find tools that will work in your life. And that's something you've intentionally designed, is for practices that we can take just a bit of each of them and bring them into our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about, creating a space to try as many different things, experience as much as you can, and see what really resonates with you. Some elements are going to go, well, that doesn't really work for me, and that's okay. And something unexpected might actually go, that really hit something home for what struck with me, is something that either I really enjoyed or got a lot of out of, or something that I really want to do. Yeah. So that's really important, just to give you as many opportunities to try as many things out there that might seem either spiritual or holistic, but actually they're just great things to experience, and actually take all the ego and elements out of it and just experience and enjoy and just see what works for you.
Brilliant. So if you're interested to learn more about our 3-day retreat out here at the Lighthouse Retreat in Ras Al Khaimah, please get in touch with us at Mentl. We're at thementl.space, or get in touch with us via our social media platforms, or more importantly, get in touch with Simon here at the Lighthouse Retreat, thelighthouseretreat.com. Simon, remind us of the dates that we're looking at again.
So it's the 17th to the 19th of March. So it's a Friday through to Sunday.
Perfect. Simon, once again, thank you very much for joining us here on the Mentl Space, and cannot wait for our retreat.
Oh, amazing. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.